Today I'm going to be talking about what's new in BioRender. I'm going to cover some features that have been in BioRender for maybe a few months now, but then some features that were just released this week. So we can talk through some old and new. The focus of today's conversation is going to be around sharing and collaborating in BioRender. So for the first half of the conversation, we're going to talk about the three different ways that you can share your files in BioRender. And then the back half of the conversation is going to be some features to support in-tool collaboration. So I'm just going to turn off my video to make sure that we're getting some top performance here. The first one that we're going to cover is going to be inviting your colleagues to view or edit your figure. So when we think about inviting people to view or edit our figure or collaborate on any sort of file, the best way to go about inviting someone is when you have a small group or one person that you want to invite to your figure. You know that they have a BioRender account, and this is infrequent sharing. So maybe you're not sharing with them a lot or in large volumes. It's kind of just a one-off. This is going to be your best way to share your figure. So I'm going to go through a quick example here. What you can do is click on the share button in the top right corner. Once you click on the share button, you're going to see the option to invite a person via their email address. So what you can do is type in the person's email address and you can choose their permissions. So you can give them edit permissions or you can give them view permissions. Anyone who has an edit permission is able to edit the figure as well as your poster. If you're choosing to invite someone to your poster, they can also change the permissions. They can invite other people or they can make a copy. If you're choosing view only, that means that they can just view the content of your file. So I'm going to go ahead and add Frank here and then send the invite at the bottom. If I send that invite, this is going to send an email to Frank. Frank is going to receive an email inviting him to the file that I've just sent him. And what's going to happen when he goes to his gallery page, there's going to be a shared file section down here in the bottom left corner. A red dot will appear on the shared files icon when new files have arrived in your shared folder section. So if you click on the shared files there, all of the files shared with you will appear here. So Frank would see my presentation here in his shared folder section. The next way to share a file that we're going to go through is going to be via a shared folder. So just at the end of last year, we released the ability to create shared folders. This is a really nice way to share with people if you have a small group, a large group, and you know that they have BioRender accounts, as well if you're sharing frequently or you're sharing large volumes of work. So this kind of acts like a workspace where you can drop all the files that you want to collaborate on, and you can invite everybody at that file level. So if we jump into the gallery, I'm going to jump back to my gallery here. You can see my folders on the left side. There's the shared with me. These are all folders that have been shared with me. So if I open one of those folders, I can see a ton of different files, and I wasn't added to those files one by one. Instead, I was added at the folder level. So I'll walk through the process of how to do that. If we click new folder on the far left there, we're going to click new folder. I'm going to type an example for this purpose here and click save. If I hover over my new folder and I click those three dots to the right side, I'm going to see the option to share. If I click share, again, I'm going to get that invite modal. I'm going to invite Frank again and add Frank to that folder. Now, anytime I drop files into that folder, Frank's going to be able to access them. The way to differentiate files or folders that you've created that are shared or independent to you is the icon on the far left. If it's shared, it has a person in the folder there. If it's not, if it's just your own folder, the icon won't have a person in it. So again, just to quickly recap, you can create shared folders for project type work if you're sharing with people frequently or in large volumes. The third way to share in BioRender, which is the newest way to share in BioRender, and we're going to go through a live demo today, is to share a link to your figure. So this is ideal for times when you're sharing with an individual or a really large group and they don't have BioRender, or maybe it's unknown if they have BioRender. So what you can do now, I'm going to go into an example here. I've chosen a file and I'm going to click on the share button in the top right corner. And you're going to see this new section, which is called invite via link. It will, by default, anyone with the link will not have access. Your files will remain very secure. However, if you'd like to enable access, you can click on that button there and you can allow anyone with the link of this file to, at a minimum, view the file. When you click to edit or view, give edit or view permissions, you're going to get a confirmation modal to say, are you sure you want to do this? You just confirm. And then you can either copy the link in this modal, or you can get the link from the top of your URL here and give that a copy. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share this link live so we can all give it a try and see what happens. I will give a little bit of an explanation. So if I paste this link, if you have BioRender open and you've already logged in, you're going to be directed immediately to this file. If you're not logged into BioRender or you don't have it open, you're going to be shown a preview. So I'm going to drop it in the chat. This is going to be a true load test. Hopefully we don't bring down BioRender in this attempt, but I'm going to send it to the chat here and you are more than welcome to click the link and view this feature in real life. The nice thing about this feature is if I jump back to the share modal, I can see everyone who's joined that file, and I do have the option to revoke access. So I can switch back to no access. If I click no access and someone tries to enter that file, oh no, let me just give it a refresh. This might be the load test. Everyone trying to join at the same time. If I remove the access, no one should have access to that file anymore. You shouldn't be able to access that link and unless you've joined as a collaborator. So if you've joined as a collaborator, you'll still be able to access the file. If you haven't, it'll show no access and nobody can access that file anymore. All right. So just a couple comments. It's still loading. Yeah, this was a true test. I'm glad some people were able to access the file. That was a good test for our internal team. Just to recap on some of the benefits of sharing in BioRender, if you leverage one of the three ways that we just covered there, the benefits are that your files are up to date. We heard from a lot of people that we interviewed, there's a lot of exporting files, sending to somebody for feedback, getting the feedback, applying the feedback, exporting again, sending away again. So it was a lot of version management. When you share via BioRender, whether it's the link, a folder, or directly via email, your files are always up to date and you never have to worry about the person seeing a file that's out of date. We also do support version history. I'm pretty sure Shiz mentioned this in her talk earlier, but any file that you share, there is going to be a version history that you can revert back to. So if we go to File in the top left corner, there's this version history option where you can see all the previous versions of your file, and you can always revert back to that version. So you can see here, there was a number of edits that were made today. If I click on one of them and then click make a copy of this version, I can revert back to any point in time. Yeah, here we are. So I can click on any version and make a copy of it. So you never have to be worried about someone joining as a collaborator and ruining your figure, because you can always go back to that previous state. One of the other benefits is in-context feedback. I'm going to talk about commenting next and some updates we've made, but when you share in BioRender, you can get in-context feedback. So if I was to add a comment or leave a comment, I could pinpoint the specific area that I want to leave a comment on, so the person understands that feedback, rather than having it in an email where you're just listing out those points. It is a good way to get feedback that you understand and there's less miscommunication. So one of the second last points I'm going to go through today is live commenting. So we just kind of mentioned commenting. Some updates that we've made to commenting is that they're now live. So I have a collaborator on the other end who's going to start dropping comments. You can see this comment just appeared here in the top right corner with that red dot. And we just see another one beside live commenting. Previously with comments, you had to rely on refreshing the page to see those comments in real time. Now, if two people are on the figure at the same time, you see those comments appear instantly, and you can address the comments in the moment. So I think we're having a little bit of a loading slow down here, but hopefully everyone understood by opening that first comment there from Matt. And then the last item I was going to talk about is slides feature. So Francesca highlighted this a little bit with the slides feature and being able to make a presentation. This is what I did today as well. I made a presentation. But another way that we see the slides feature being used is to make multiple versions of a figure. We have heard that versions are very important when creating a figure and being able to make the comparison against different versions. So one option you could look at is when you create your original version of a file and share with collaborators, you can have them duplicate your file there and then make their own version or their own iteration. So they don't have to edit your particular file, but maybe I created version 1, the second collaborator created version 2, and then we have the third collaborator who created version 3. We can compare all of those versions to pick which one we think is best, but we're still using kind of the same core elements. We're just kind of changing the layout, or maybe it's some colors you want to change that you want to make comparisons against. Great. Well, that's all I have today. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to pass it back to Shiz to wrap everything up. Oh, actually, sorry, I apologize. I think we have some time for some Q&A. So I'm more than happy to answer questions if there's any about sharing and collaboration.
Hey, Katie. So I think some of our supports answered some of these questions already. Thank you so much. But we've seen quite a few questions about how do you share with other people? Do they have to be have a BioRender's license? Do they have to be on the same license? How does that work if you're sharing with different people who, might not necessarily be on the same license, or you don't know what account they might have?
Mm-hmm. The best way to go about that is probably going to be with the invite link. So if you click the share button and you make your link accessible to anyone with the link, you can copy the link and send it to them. The link is still secure. It's still a very secure link. Once they've joined, you can just revert the access back to no access if you're unsure about that person's account, or you could, however you want to send it to them, if it is via email. If the person has a free BioRender account, they will be limited to their 5 illustration limit. So, but they can then accept or reject the figure that you share with them. So the person can remove some of their old illustrations to get them under that 5 illustration limit so they can see yours. If they're outside your organization, they should still be able to access the file. You shouldn't be limited there. And if they have a premium account, there's no limits in the number of files that they can receive and be collaborators on. So you're more than welcome to share as many files as you'd like with those individuals.
Thanks, Katie. And a few more questions about that awesome new share link, that option that we have. So if you give a collaborator a link and they open it, would they also have access to other figures on the account?
No, it's just that one particular figure. It won't share any of your other figures with that specific person. They're going to be limited to the specific unique URL that is shared with that individual figure.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.